Well, crazy deranged Margaret Taylor Greene goes viral again. This time, she didn't even open her mouth when a black woman called her out at the D.C. airport. Watch this.
Bleach Blonde, bad build. How you doing today? How you be? You didn't like that, huh?
Roll that again.
Bleach Blonde, bad build. How you doing today? How you be? You didn't like that, huh?
Well, that woman is Kia Croom. We recorded that video. She joins us now from D.C. Kia, glad to have you here. So you were in the airport. I take it she was traveling out and you were coming back from somewhere, correct?
Correct. I want to make sure y'all can see me. Correct.
We got you.
I was coming back from Los Angeles. I'd been at a conference and I remember seeing people taking pictures with her. And I'm like, is that? And I'm like, I don't know why on earth anybody would be doing that, but whatever. And I knew that I was going to say something to her. In fact, what wasn't captured was when I looked at her and I told her, I said, you're going to learn to leave Black women alone. And she responded like, yeah, okay. And, you know, I had time that day. So I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I hit record, and that's where you saw that exchange.
So y'all had an exchange before. Y'all had an exchange before you recorded this.
We did.
And so, go ahead.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I was just simply telling her, you know, listen, you're going to learn to leave Black women alone. And she responded to me the way that we saw her respond to AOC during that infamous clip, you know, like, oh, yeah, okay. And it was just like, okay.
So you post this, and then all of a sudden it just takes off.
It did. I actually had no idea that this would go viral. I had no idea that it would evoke the level of laughter. I mean, the level of joy. Like, I literally had people texting, DMing me, and telling me everything from, you know, offering to buy me lunch to, you know, just thanking them because, I mean, they just found it to be such comedic relief. I had no idea. That totally wasn't what I did it for. I just knew that I had time and I had a moment because, like a lot of Black women, I've just been disgusted by the anti-Blackness that I've been seeing play out in the media for, I mean, how much time you got, but like, it just seems like over the last 2 weeks between the clip we saw, the exchange between MGT and Congresswoman Crockett and AOC, and then you see Kelly Rowland over in Cannes, it's just like the anti-Blackness, the misogynoir, it's just like, I've had it, right? So I had time that day.
Well, it has certainly generated lots of attention. Do y'all have a control room? Y'all got the video that we put out on social media with this in the song? All right, go ahead and play it.
Bleach Blonde, bad build,
No. Keenan put out on social media. He used her clip. Y'all kill that. On social media, Keenan posted the clip of Croom with her. It was hilarious. Hold on, let me see if I can find it because I saw it. I said, oh, this is just too much right here, and it's gotten probably. Let's see here. All right, check it out. Let's see. So I'm looking for the.
You ain't built for that scrap. Keep your distance. I ain't dealing with your cap.
Yeah, I'm looking for. That's not it. Come back to me. Come back. So I'm looking for the. So he posted it, and it was her included. And oh my God, when I say I fell out. Oh, here it is. Go.
Bad build. How you doing today? How you be? You didn't like that, huh?
Bleach Blonde, bad build, butch body, shut your trap. Jealous of my style, cause you know I got that snap.
Oh, that was just too much. And again, you see right here, oh my God, we've got more than 2,200 comments. Almost 24,000 folks have liked it. Just flat out hilarious. Questions from the panel. Robert, you first.
At that moment, you talked about the attacks on Black women, and we've discussed that ad nauseum on this show, whether it's Marilyn Mosby, whether it's Fonnie Willis, whether it's Keisha Lance Bottoms, Lori Lightfoot, Mira Cantrell, Marianne Bowser, on down the line. What do you think can be the instructive nature of this moment with Jasmine Crockett, where we simply decide, instead of playing by their rules and playing by these genteel games, actually just simply respond to them in kind?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, under ordinary circumstances, I'm a sweetheart. I'm probably the sweetest person you could ever meet in life. And yet I'm tired. And I mean, I don't know if because
Nah, come on now. You calling yourself
I
sweet.
am.
You know. Come
I
on
mean,
now.
if you wanted it
Hold
here.
up. Come on, kid. Really sweet.
Well, I'm gonna say it
really
like this.
sweet people ain't that petty. Like, I know I'm petty. I know I'm petty.
I had time that day, but here's the deal. I want to respond to the gentleman's question.
Go ahead.
I think that responding in kind for Black women, for brown women, if that means clapping back, then I say no more passes, like, period. Like, I honestly feel like if you're big, bad, and bold enough to hurl a racist trope or a microaggression, because let's be clear, that's what we saw happen on the congressional floor there. That was a microaggression, and it happens from the rooms of Congress down to boardrooms and offices, where across the USA, across the globe. I'm of the mind at this point that in kind, if you're big, bad, and bold enough to hurl a trope, you're big, bad, and bold enough to get it right back dug in your face. You know what I mean? And that's just where I'm at, because I think that it's taken as passivity. I don't know if it's taken as passivity. What I see a lot of women of color, Black women doing when attacked, because when you're attacked, especially in a public discourse like that, it's very like disorienting. And I don't know how Congresswoman Crockett, like, I commend her for holding her composure. Like, I saw, a little and she said, ain't nothing, about me, or whatever she was saying in that moment. But I can't imagine how humiliating that had to feel at that point in time. So you know what? The instructive, as far as I'm concerned, is really no more passes. I'm a firm believer in calling that behavior out and pulling it up by the root, even if it's, so this is what we're doing in this moment, like Congresswoman Crockett did. I just want to be clear. So this is what we're doing. But no more passes. It's just too much.
Just a quick follow-up also. Marjorie Taylor Greene, in response, posted a picture in a bikini this weekend. Do you think that will change the conversation about her being bad, built with a bush body?
Hell no, because it was Photoshopped.
No. And somebody dared to comment, she would beat your butt or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I don't throw hands. I deal with lawyers and I'm not going to say, but listen, I'm not going to throw hands with her. Too many people in my family depends on me and rely on me to find myself in some fisticuffs, as my grandmother would say, with somebody. Like, I don't even have anything for that, but absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
So Robert, Rebecca, this is the photo Robert was referring. Okay, Rebecca, go ahead.
Oh.
Bless her heart. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I know that you are not a professional troll. I also know there's a lot of people who want to support you. So can you tell us more about who you are, what you do, and how we can support you?
Yeah, so I own a global fundraising firm called Kia Croom Fundraising and Philanthropy. My claim to fame, if you will, is having raised nearly $1 billion for social justice causes led by and serving Black and brown people. And I mean, I love it. I meet some of the most incredible Black women, brown women you could ever imagine, women that are really on the front lines trying to affect social change and fight structural inequities, which is, I think, why, you know, that moment we witnessed struck me so much, because I look at it this way. Here you had Congresswoman Crockett, you know, people are assembled to take care of business at hand, and you have someone making a mockery and a caricature of a Black woman in a public discourse. The Black women and brown women that I know are laying down their lives for the sake of social justice, like Black women have always done. So that is the work that I do. And you can find me at www.kiacroom.com. And drop me a line. My social handles are the same, Kia Croom. And I'm happy to connect with anybody that's about social change and as passionate about it as I am. Thank you for having me.
Julianne?
Okay, baby sis. Google me, call me. I am taking you to lunch. I live in D.C. You the bomb.
Yes.
So just JulianneMalvo.com. I would be happy to buy you lunch and to basically hang out with you. I'm just loving what you did. That's one. Number two, these people, this misogynoir has been so advanced that they attack us from our credentials to our eyeglasses.
To our appearance.
Credentials to our, yes. And so this is unacceptable. So thank you for calling that BBB. And there was a missing B there, you know, because of the BBB. Roland knows what the B is. But basically, thank you for calling her out. Now, the other piece of this is, it's not just MTG. She's a nasty piece of work, but she's been one since she was born. She doesn't even need to be breathing the air. That's a waste of air. What is your thought as a PR maven and a fundraiser about how we deal with misogynoir more broadly? Robert called out some of the names. We've seen them. Angela also Brooks. She needed training wheels. Give me a break. We could go down the list. Black women are under attack. How do we fight back?
Yeah, I mean, no more passes. Period. No more passes. You big, bad, and bold enough to say it. You're big, bad, and bold enough to get caught out, whether we're calling it out on the spot. And I understand that things impact people differently sometimes because these moments can be so jarring. We have to collect ourselves. But I'm a proponent of calling this out and uprooting it wherever it rears its ugly head. Period. I honestly think that it's going to take not just Black women, because I hear a fair amount of Black women talking about misogynoir. Yeah, we're the target, but I think that it's going to take more Black men speaking up. To be quite honest, and in offices and workplaces, this is where the allies are going to have to come in. It's no more passes, period. You call it out, and sometimes you got to show the bully where it's at, and like the gentleman said a moment ago, return it in kind. By my estimation, it's going high, right? Because you would not believe how many women of color I talk to in Zoom screens every week that are in tears because they've been humiliated and have old sores nearly because they couldn't find the words or weren't comfortable countering an attack and simply calling it by its name. So no more passes given. That's just where I'm at with it.
All right.
I really wish, Roland, I could run into her in the airport. I would have a good old time.
Yeah, because we're
going to have a good time. We're going to have a good one.
Because we know you petty too, Julianne. All right, Kia. Kia, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Stay petty. You ain't sweet. I don't know why you fronting. You petty. Thanks a lot. All right.
Yeah, somebody's killing poor people, and it's going on.
COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID. If you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor, having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. We are a resurrection, and we are ready. And we won't be silent anymore.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
For years, Donald Trump has gotten away with all of his lawbreaking. He's never been held accountable until he messed with New York State. Today, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has successfully prosecuted Donald Trump on 34 counts of violating campaign finance laws. He was trying to hide hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels, who he cheated on with his wife after she had a baby. Here are all of the counts. There were 34 counts, and that jury read guilty 34 different times. The panel of 7 men and 5 women were unanimous in convicting Donald Trump of those payments. They believed his ex-lawyer, Michael Cohen, who testified that Trump ordered him to hide those payments. He will be sentenced on July 11th, but will remain free. Michael Sozan, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress Action Fund, joins us right now. Also, my panel, Reese Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show out of Sirius XM Radio out of D.C., Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, also out of D.C., Lauren Victoria Burke, Black Press USA out of Arlington, Virginia. We'll be joined shortly by attorney Scott Bolden, a regular legal analyst on our show as well. So this was quite the interesting day here, Mike. And of course, Trump never held accountable for his actions. Today, he is now a convicted felon.
That's right. Thanks for having me on, Roland. I mean, that I think is the big headline here. This is a huge day for accountability and the rule of law. I mean, we are a nation where no one is supposed to be above the law, not even a former president. And as you said, these were unanimous verdicts, guilty on all 34 counts. This was a case that some people said from the beginning was going to be too tough to prove, but I think that the DA's team did an excellent job. Donald Trump had every opportunity to present his case. The judge was fair-minded. Trump tried to bend the rules along the way and was found in violation of a gag order 10 different times. He could have taken the stand if he wanted to set the record straight, as he says. He's still saying it's rigged. But this is a big day. It's a sober day as well. It's not really a cause for celebration. I mean, this is the first time that a president or a former president has been convicted of crimes. But this is a big day for accountability in this country and for this democracy.
Well, the thing that jumps out at me, again, the sign above the Supreme Court says equal justice under law. And the reality is this here. Republicans, they don't believe that. They have defended this man. I mean, I was driving in, listening to Sirius XM Radio, and oh Lord, the Fox News. There wasn't a single person on Fox News who was presenting a fair and balanced perspective on this. It was all kissing up to Trump. Janine Pirro, she said, "I've been in this system 32 years, and I'm just so disillusioned today." Really? Really? It was clear. First of all, I got to keep reminding people, Michael Cohen was prosecuted by the Trump Department of Justice for the same crimes. His lawyer. So to act like, oh, that was good, but prosecuting him is bad, and that's crazy.
Yep, that's right. And I was tuned into Fox News a little bit after the verdict as well. As I was going through the various channels, and you're right, they're already trying to reaffirm what Trump is saying, that this is a rigged system, that this was a rigged trial from the beginning, and that, as always, they're saying that this was coordinated somehow with Joe Biden, and that this is in some ways Joe Biden trying to interfere with the election that he allegedly feels he's going to lose. So he's got to resort to these tactics. But there's no evidence for any of that. We see right through that. And so it's another example of how so many people in this country live in two media ecosystems, and they can look at the same set of facts and reach wildly different conclusions. But I think that the majority of Americans, especially those who haven't chosen a side, who are open to facts and law and fairness and justice, are going to see this verdict. And I think many of them are going to have a real problem supporting Donald Trump, voting for Donald Trump in the November election. This is just a real watershed moment. And I think and I hope that for the good of democracy, that Americans are going to take a really good look at this verdict.
Reese, I could not help but laugh when I saw a poor little Megyn Kelly. She sent this tweet out after the verdict. Go to my iPad, Henry. Guilty on all counts. The country is disgraced. Alvin Bragg should be disbarred. They will rue the day they unleash this lawfare to corrupt a presidential election. No, y'all will rue the day when you support a person for president who broke the law before he was elected, broke the law while he was president, broke the law afterwards.
Yeah, first of all, this conviction means that, in a sense, the 2016 election was stolen, because this relates to essentially what amounts to election fraud. And people knew that he was out there screwing porn stars while his wife was pregnant. His ass probably wouldn't have won. Okay, he wasn't that good of a candidate. All right, and so the whole notion that this is some sort of injustice as it relates to this election, when they had 20 crazy motherfuckers who have the same positions as Donald Trump running for president, including governors, former governors, senators, and all kinds of shit. They could have picked any one of them, and he was on trial. He was indicted during the entire campaign season. They could have picked any one of them. This is y'all horse. Y'all chose to ride it right off into the damn sunset with his 34 now convictions. As far as the notion that we shouldn't celebrate today, hell yeah, I'm celebrating today. Are you kidding me? For what? You have a powerful, wealthy, questionably wealthy white man who is being held to the same system that he has celebrated and he has perpetuated in terms of one of his first orders of business was getting Jeff Sessions to increase the penalties for things like weed. Hell yeah, I'm celebrating. The same motherfucker that took out a full-page ad to call for the death penalty for teenagers who were wrongfully accused, the exonerated 5. Hell yeah, I'm celebrating. I don't know if he's going to go to jail. Probably not. But today is a day to celebrate for me.
Lauren Victoria Burke, again, when you look at this case, you saw all these Republicans going to that courtroom, sucking up to Trump, dressed alike, looking like they were pledging Trump fraternity at Trump University. They all had to be hazed into doing that, defending him. And it's just, I mean, again, you listen to the whining and complaining and you go, really? I thought y'all were the law and order crowd.
Yeah, certainly they're law and order until, of course, law and order arrives at their door. I mean, it's understood that the justice system in this country is not equal. I will say, though, this is not my favorite case. This is not my favorite Trump case at all. The election interference case, in my view, is the best of the cases that have been presented. I wish these prosecutors had organized this a little bit differently, because I actually thought this was the weakest case. So I guess I sit here surprised that he was.
But you say organized, but the election interference, that's Georgia. That's a Georgia state case. This was a New York state case. Then you have the federal. So the reality is you can't organize state and federal cases.
Perhaps not, but when you're dealing with a former president of the United States and you understand that that's an unprecedented situation in American history, it might be wise to pick your cases and pick the order of the cases in a way that represents those facts and this historic moment. It is a huge moment, to say the least. And it will be interesting to see what the polls reflect from this. It will not surprise me if he benefits in some way from this, because we have seen the fact that his side really doesn't care about these types of things. And so where does that land in terms of what happens at sentencing, which happens right before the Republican convention? His side, of course, is making him the avatar of injustice, whether we agree with it or not. That's what they're doing. They're making him the avatar of injustice. And I'm uncomfortable, frankly, with, and as somebody who grew up in New York and can remember Donald Trump when I was in high school. He's been around for a long time. And I understand that this case is very specific to the Stormy Daniels situation. But when I read the individual accounts about invoices and very, very interesting things that I suspect that Alvin Bragg has not brought up before. Of course, Alvin Bragg hasn't been in office for very long. But I would say that of all of the cases, this to me was sort of the most, I wouldn't use the word frivolous. These things are against the law, and the law is what it is. But I'm uncomfortable because I do see a pattern, a growing pattern of using our legal system as a political device, as we saw with Marilyn Mosby, and I think we saw it with Andrew Gillum as well. All of a sudden, Andrew Gillum is being brought up on charges. So there's a little tit for tat going on here, whether we agree with this verdict or this set of verdicts or not, that I think gets us in sort of a dangerous back and forth in our politics, which are already extremely contentious.
But Greg, here's the deal. You've always had you've always had politicians that have actually been tried for a variety of reasons. Right now, Senator Robert Menendez is on trial in New Jersey. There have been mayors, county commissioners. Hell, I spent 6 years in Chicago, and damn near everybody there's on trial. The reality is this here. It should never matter if you're running for president. If you broke the law and the DA brings it up and then you go to trial, then guess what? That's why you actually go to trial. Now, you can disagree with it after the fact. We can look at it and look, for instance, we can say, okay, Marilyn Mosby, you convicted her for accessing her own money. In this case, he was deliberately trying to hide the payments. And again, this is what still jumps out at me. His own Department of Justice prosecuted his own lawyer for the exact same thing. Now, had his DOJ said they're not going to prosecute Michael Cohen for what he did in this case, okay, now I hear your argument. But they did. It just came back on him.
It's true. I have to agree with Lauren, though. I mean, African people in this country, in the United States, are so hardwired to not expect, to understand how the law works. In other words, it's not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about power. It's about influence. It's about wealth. That when something like this happens, which is basically an open and shut case, hell, if I was Trump's lawyers, I'd have told him to take the stand. Why? Because basically a campaign, a rally going on in the courtroom. When we see something like this, there is a moment of emotional catharsis. I was laughing. Madison McFerrin, Bobby McFerrin's daughter, who's a musician in her own right, recorded a nice little song, and people are laughing about it, and it's wonderful, right? But let's be clear. These are E-class felonies. There's his first-time offender, nonviolent, white-collar crime, paper crime. The judge, Mershon, is not going to lock this guy up. We going to put a Secret Service detail on the floor with him. I mean, he was a sitting president at the time. We're talking about a situation where, and Joe Biden tweeted this out after the verdict. He says, one way to get rid of this guy, it's going to be at the ballot box. And understand, I agree with everything that's been said about these campaigns. Little Lynn Graham has tweeted out. Jim Jordan called it a travesty of justice. Steve Scalise, that white nationalist out of Louisiana, said that this is election interference. They don't care. This is a boon for him. MAGA Mike said it's a shameful day. Look, at a time when you got two sitting Supreme Court justices who don't give a damn, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court told Congress today, I ain't testifying, and they ain't got to recuse themselves. What is clear is there is no rule of law in this country. There's an illusion of a rule of law, and there are technicalities, and there is there's a legal framework that might or might not be imposed. Donald Trump was going to be convicted. He's guilty of sin. If I was his lawyer, I'd told him probably to go ahead, because remember, it was on this show. Remember, Roland, when you were covering what happened in Atlanta and he got booked, we all said he's going to turn that mugshot into a fundraiser, and he's making all kinds of money. Last thing I'll say is this. On a day when it looks like the African National Congress in South Africa, for the first time since elections have been held in 1994, are going to lose their majority, and they might have to make peace with what they're calling the Center Party, which is really the home of the old white nationalist party, the Democratic Alliance. Imagine this. The biggest news in the United States of America is that Donald Trump got convicted of 34 E-class felonies at a moment that it might even boost his campaign, and it didn't disqualify him for being president of the United States. We should take this moment right now and be very serious. And what Joe Biden said is true. Only we can get rid of him is at the ballot box.
Here's the reality, Scott, and that is this. When you look at the job of federal prosecutors, state prosecutors, I mean, again, their job is to prosecute those who broke the law. Donald Trump, he has no bottom. So the reality is, it doesn't matter what it is. He'll campaign off of anything. He doesn't have any morals, values, principles, decency, ethics. It doesn't matter. And so I think what has often happened is, I think he actually has escaped accountability because of that. Remember, it was Senator Susan Collins of Maine who said after the first impeachment, oh, I think he's now learned his lesson. No, he didn't. And so the reality is you can't factor that into the equation. This guy doesn't care, so therefore you must hold him accountable. Damn any other thing that may happen outside of that.
And the criminal justice system is about holding them accountable. So your guests, God bless them, and they're friends of mine, and the other commentators who live in this world of politics, and they have political answers, right? Okay, it can be political accountability at the ballot box, right? But if you break the law, if you have criminal intent to break the law, then the criminal justice system is built to hold you accountable for criminal conduct. And the Court of Appeals, a grand jury, prosecutors, defense, judges, Court of Appeals judges have all looked at this case and said, let it go forward. This is the criminal justice system at work, and this was a prosecutor's verdict within 12 hours. I mean, this case wasn't even close. And so I think both systems work, and Donald Trump can con America or con the GOP and RNC and con 45% of the voters in America, but you cannot con the criminal justice system. You cannot con those who care about democracy and care about what is righteous and moral and good, and that they don't want to reprobate essentially to be running the country, who has run the country before, right? And so this duality is part of our democracy. They're not counter to one another. And so I think both are important. And I will tell you this, Roland, lastly, anybody that thinks that Judge Marchant, who's been the subject of vicious attacks by Donald Trump, his family been attacked by Donald Trump, that he's not thinking about putting Donald Trump in jail. I don't know many people walking around with 34 felony counts, regardless of what you think about the case or the facts, who are walking around without getting any jail time. It is a real possibility. Now, watch what I say. I told you this a year ago. I told others a year ago. This is the process. Watch and see what Marchant does. It may not be soon because there are going to be appeals. They're going to stay sentencing. They're going to be filing papers for sentencing memorandums and what have you. He may not go to jail right away. He may get through the election. But incarceration on sentencing guidelines in New York is real, it's valid, and it's a real probability with Judge Marchant.
Mike, I saw you shaking your head agreeing with Scott there.
Yep, I agree with what a lot of what was just said. I also, from experts that I've read and people who have worked in New York State, jail time is standard for cases like this, for convictions like this, for other defendants. It would not be out of the ordinary based on what's happened in the past many, many years. I also agree that, chances that Trump will likely avoid that having to actually be incarcerated through his appeal after the election, et cetera. But I also think I was agreeing that, of course, we can look at the politics of this. We can look at this through the legal system lens. But, one thing that I think is really important here, again, to emphasize is there is some degree of accountability here. And many, many Americans have been hoping for that vis-a-vis Donald Trump. He has continued to bend every law and rule and norm his way for many, many years. And Americans are getting sick and tired of that. And so this is a good day for accountability, where it shows that no one is above the law. And the other point I'll just make is that I agree that some of the other cases, the prosecutions that are ongoing, either in Georgia or the D.C. prosecution for Trump's plot to overthrow the election, or even the prosecution that's ongoing regarding Trump keeping the classified documents. Those are more important in some ways, but they all go back to the central point that he continues to break the law in order to gain power and then to hold on to power. And that's been a throughput for much of his career, and certainly since he ran for president in 2016. And so today, I think, is a big day for accountability.
Mike Sozan, I certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, It would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor, having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a rest country. Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. We are a resurrection, and we are ready. And we won't be silent anymore.
I'm cracking up laughing because MAGA has been losing their minds. I mean, the crying and the wheezing and the whining and the threatening, I mean, they have been losing it. And I'm sitting here going, I'm confused. Y'all are literally defending somebody who cheated on his wife, slept with a porn star, lasted 90 seconds, then asked his attorney to pay a hush money, hid the payment, breaking campaign finance laws, and that's y'all martyr?
Well, I mean, we know this has never been about values or someone being conservative or a traditional family man. This is about white male power. And what they're really crying about is the fact that a white man, like Donald Trump, who they think of as infallible and all powerful, faced any kind of repercussion or consequence. Because you know what he could have just did? Cheat on his wife. Not paid the hush money, because clearly this cult of people do not care what this man does. Instead, he committed a crime to cover up something that, quite frankly, seemed to be right in his wheelhouse. This has never been a man known to be faithful in his marriages. I mean, we've seen the transcripts from the various memoirs from Marla Maples to Ivana Trump. So I don't know what this was about, other than the fact that these people can't stand that their leader, if you will, lost, because they treat him almost like a deity. But I mean, you know, that's the route he found out.
Michael, if you really want to see a video of a really just shameful and pathetic black man, is this dude right here.
I can't believe the hoax, this sham, this absolute injustice justice system. D.A. Bragg and the judge should be ashamed of themselves. This isn't just ridiculous. This actually erodes the confidence that Americans have in the justice system. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. But good news is coming. D.A. Bragg, hear me clearly. You cannot silence the American people. You cannot stop us from voting for change. Joe Biden's injustice, Joe Biden's two-tier injustice system, weaponizing the justice system of the United States of America against a political opponent, un-American. Joe Biden, you're fired. We the people stand with Donald Trump. I can't believe the hoax, this sham, this absolute injustice.
Here, how dare you? I mean, this is an abomination. This is a sham, like my engagement. I mean, what am I sitting here talking about? I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, Joe Biden, how dare you? No, put Tim in the box. How dare you? I can't believe y'all did this to my man. All the ass that I've been kissing. I've been sitting here backing this man. I mean, I've been sitting here. I mean, what is wrong? How dare y'all do that to my patron saint? What's wrong with y'all? This ain't right. This ain't fair. Y'all gonna keep me from becoming the vice president. I can't believe y'all did this to my man. What's wrong with y'all? This is not the United States of America. This is a banana republic, and this don't make no sense. I'm highly pissed off. This is the most bass I've had in my voice ever in my life, and this is just wrong, wrong, wrong. Damn it, I need a lollipop. Michael, go ahead.
You know, this is what a certified Negro who is still under warranty looks like. Senator Tim Scott is a total disgrace. OK, and I know he likes to talk about he went from picking cotton to Congress in one generation and things like this. But his ancestors to pick cotton in South Carolina, if they came back to see what he's doing now, they probably slapped the black off of him. OK, so this is a just ruling. Number one, it was a jury of Donald Trump's peers. He went out today rambling, and numerous news outlets have fact checks on the lies he was telling, like the Washington Post from Trump Tower lobby, a gusher of falsehoods about the trial. And then also keep in mind that during the 2016 campaign, Donald Trump was saying, Hillary Clinton's emails, but it was Donald Trump's own State Department. And I'm looking at the article from the New York Times, October 18, 2019. State Department inquiry into Clinton emails finds no deliberate mishandling of classified information. OK, so it's very interesting why he wanted to hang that over Hillary Clinton's head during the 2016 campaigns. And we found out his own State Department exonerated her. He gets busted trying to influence the 2016 campaign. Okay, so this goes beyond paying just quote unquote hush money to an adult film star. This deals with trying to suppress information that he knew and his campaign knew would drastically influence the 2016 campaign against him. He was already saying he was losing votes with women after the Access Hollywood video came out. We have to use this as a teaching opportunity, because these videos and things like this, these are good. But if his ass wins the presidency in 2024, we're all going to be crying. Okay. And then lastly, I saw the picture and the meme that you posted about the 5 African-American female judges. I posted an article about this. There are 5 of 21 appellate court judges. And they're chosen, if you read the article, misleading photos suggest Trump would face an all-black, all-female panel of judges on appeal. It's from the Dispatch. These are 5 appellate court judges, but it's a total of 21 appellate court judges. And it's usually a panel of 4 or 5 that are chosen randomly.
Michael, there's a phrase in radio called "go with the bit." You go with
that comes from the Time during the morning.
No. It's called "go with the bit." Right now, Michael, you're fucking up the bit. Okay, we don't need you explaining.
Go with the
they're
bit,
20. Michael, go with the bit. Don't mess the bit up. You got I read an article in the Dispatch, and there are actually 21. Michael, go with the bit. Don't fuck up the bit. Okay, I got it. Okay, no, Michael, go with the bit. Okay, I know there are 21 judges. No shit, I Googled it, but go with the bit.
I'm providing evidence.
Damn, you Sigmas, fuck shit up. Go with the bit.
No, we don't.
Yes, you do.
No,
all right. Go with the bit. Anyway. All right. Now, if y'all want to see somebody totally out of control, is crazy deranged Megyn Kelly. This is her last night on News Nation. And talk about just trying her best to kiss Trump's ass.
Organization wrote down legal expenses from the drop-down Adobe menu, and that made as much sense as anything else because hush money wasn't an option. He was paying his lawyer who had made the payment to Stormy Daniels, and he was, I believe, reimbursing her, though he denied that, reimbursing him, though he denied that on the stand. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. I think you pay your lawyer money because he outlaid money for you. You could easily classify that as a legal expense.
No matter what it's for, right? Even if it's illegal conduct, you can just put it's a legal expense, right?
This wasn't illegal. There's nothing illegal about paying hush money for an NDA. It's done
there's not.
all the
time. But when you're doing it to protect your campaign, it is. That's the difference.
No. What law are you citing, Dan?
Campaign finance laws. You're not allowed to give the...
You don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking...
You're wrong.
Explain to me.
Let me explain to you.
Tell me what I'm getting wrong. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. When you're spending $130,000...
I'll explain.
Go ahead.
I get it, because you're saying that there are limits to the campaign contributions somebody could make, and this has exceeded them, and then they hit it. I understand. That's his theory. However, this has been wrong from the start.
Yeah.
It does not amount to a campaign contribution if it is the kind of payment that could ever be made outside of the campaign context.
That's not the standard. The standard is substantiality. It's not. It's substantiality.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You're wrong.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Well, I guess we're going to have to agree.
There's been Supreme Court precedent on this. Talk to Brad Smith, who was the
Jelana, she can just run her damn mouth all day. Here's what we know. His ass guilty.
34 times. Absolutely. But here's what's killing me, man. I swear on my mama, I need some grapes, some crackers, and some brie to go with all this damn whining that they're doing. It makes not a lick of sense. And first of all, I don't know why they whining, because other people, because my other job as a part of being a state representative is I'm a criminal defense lawyer for 29 years. When you get convicted, they normally give you bond conditions. You don't get to just walk free, keep your passport, go and speak everywhere, talk bad about the judge. You don't get to do that. Other people would be locked up. So they should be shouting hallelujah that he's getting special treatment. That's one thing that's incredibly bothersome to me. They talked about Mark Burnett. I don't know if you remember this, Roland, but I was on a show called Survivor. And back on Juneteenth of 2020, a number of Black survivors sued, we started negotiating and threatened to sue Survivor, Mark Burnett, Jeff Probst because they were anti-Black. And as a result of that, all of a sudden you see diversity. So I have the documents if you ever want to talk about that. So Mark Burnett, even in other shows that he has had a bias against Black people specifically. So this whole 34 counts, most times that doesn't happen, right? You have a whole bunch of counts, they throw something out. The evidence against Donald Trump was so pervasive and so overwhelming that even people on the jury who supported his dumb ass voted to convict him. So I'm sick of the whining. I'm gonna need for them to stop doing all that. And as the gentleman said, the first person that you talked to, what we need to do is we need to vote. And the reason that we need to vote is because 2 Supreme Court justices are gonna be on the ballot. They just are. Alito and Thomas are old. And if Donald Trump wins, he's gonna put some young ass people on the Supreme Court, and they're gonna be there past the lifetimes probably of our children. And if you think that we can't go back to how it was pre-Jim Crow, where they're lynching, then we need to worry, because the people that are going to get the most stepped on are us. It's always Black people. When he was talking last night, he was talking about letting people come in from Africa. Newsflash. And notice he said all these countries that the Republicans hate, and Muslims, he said, but he didn't say Europe. So it's fine for us to let people come in from Europe. I wonder why that is, because they white? Maybe, but you don't want Hispanics, you don't want Black people, you don't want Muslim people. He is going to exact revenge on us. So we know what happens when we stay home. It happened in 2016.
Yep.
And things got really bad. So we came out and we voted in 2020. Thank God. We better vote in 2024 because our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives are going to depend on it. And that's a fact.
Now, you talk about the whining. This to me was absolutely wonderful yesterday. Listen to this.
I want to get John in for one final comment. If there is a conviction, what happens to markets tomorrow? Very simple.
I think markets crash tomorrow if there's a conviction, but I think they will bounce back because, look, even if they put Donald Trump in jail, I think the American people will vote him into president. We will vote him into the White House right out of the New York City jail. It's an outrageous trial, and people can see.
But if there's a conviction, you think there'll be a crash?
I think the markets will do very badly.
What are you talking about, 1,000-point loss?
I think we'll see at least a 2% drop.
Okay. John Carney, I want to thank you.
That was y'all John Carney. John Carney said the markets are going to crash. They're going to tank. They're going to be down 2%. Henry, go to my iPad. The Dow gained 600 points today, y'all. So all that nonsense didn't happen. Do y'all see how crazy these people are? Understand, they predict doom and gloom, and it was up 600 points. Let's beat his ass by at least 400 electoral college votes. Because, again, that's the way you really stick it to him.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and they're underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties had waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. We are a resurrection, and we are ready. And we won't be silent anymore.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Former Apprentice producer Bill Pruitt came out today and announced, he said that his NDA expired after 20 years. And he said that in Trump talking about Kwame Jackson winning The Apprentice, he used the N-word. This is from the box story right here. Of course, this was talked about beforehand, but here you have a producer who's on record saying, I heard it, and it's on tape. Then you also, guys, let me know if y'all have that video. Then you have this leaked audio that came out of staffers, various staffers of the Trump campaign. I think it was Katrina Pearson. We don't have it? All right, it was Katrina Pearson, it was Omarosa, and Lynn Wyatt, I believe. They were talking, and they were talking about how to handle this video coming out, and one of them said, "Look, he said it." This here is this was put out by the Biden-Harris campaign. Watch this.
I'm trying to find out at least what context it was used in to help us maybe try to figure out a way to spin it. I said, well, sir, can you think of any time that this might have happened? And he said no.
Well, that's not true.
He goes, how do you think I should handle it? And I told him exactly what you just said, Marissa, which is, well, it depends on what scenario you're talking about. And he said, well, why don't you just go ahead and put it to bed? I don't know what the scandal is. He said it. I'm trying to find out at least.
Here you have Katrina Pearson, who just won a Republican nomination for a state house seat in Texas, who said, he said it. He's embarrassed. Your thoughts on what Bill Pruitt is released today?
I'm not surprised. Not at all surprised. I mean, this has been rumored for years now, and I've had direct conversations with other Apprentice producers who maybe 6-7 years ago called me up to say, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. He's on tape, and if this thing leaks, people are going to be coming to you to give comments. So this is not.
So hold on 1 second. So other Apprentice producers other than Bill Pruitt called you in the past to tell you that Donald Trump was on tape using the N-word.
Yes, they said the tapes exist. Don't know if they'll see the light of day because they were under the control of Mark Burnett Productions. But as a courtesy to me, they're like, if you are wondering whether or not those tapes exist, they exist. So again, no surprise. And even when I think about my finale from The Apprentice, and you know this story as well as anyone, some of your listeners may not recall, you know, there were 7 seasons of The Apprentice. There were 3 before me, because I was season 4, and there were 3 after me. The first 3 winners were white. Season 4, first only black winner, you're looking at him. Season 5, 6, and 7, all white winners. I'm the only winner across all 7 that he asked to share the title. Now, putting that out of context with what Bill Pruitt has shared, it begs the question, well, why would he do that? If I give Donald the benefit of the doubt, I say, well, that was racially insensitive, Donald. But I don't give him benefit of the doubt. So I say it's racist. Well, people say, well, where's your evidence? Well, now Bill Pruitt comes forward and says, well, season 1, Kwame Jackson and Bill Rancic, you had another white and a black in the finale. What does Donald say? Well, here's the receipts. We don't want to see an N-word win The Apprentice. Well, how will America react if an N-word wins The Apprentice? Which completely explains why when Randall Pinkett emerges in season 4 as the objective winner who he can't deny, he then says, well, how can I undermine the victory? Because I can't not have Randall win. The dude's undefeated. He has the best team record. Everyone here is voting for Randall to win. So what do? Ask him to share the title with the white runner-up. I was insulted then. I'm insulted now. And for all those who said, oh, Randall, you're a sore winner, you should have shared. Really? Listen to what Bill Pruitt said after his NDA expired. Bill Pruitt only had the seeds that were planted in season 1 that then germinated for season 4 when I was in the finale. That's what I say.
Well, some people are saying, well, that's old news has come out. I think Trump released a statement saying Mark Burnett says the tapes don't exist. Well, now he's going to have to answer to one of his former producers who say the tapes do exist.
Yeah. And I give Bill credit because there's a lot of people in the Apprentice circles who are definitely afraid of speaking out against Donald. You'll recall I did a press conference when Donald announced his candidacy for president and recruited, or I should say tried to recruit, other former Apprentice contestants to stand with me in denouncing his candidacy. And only 7 of us, only 6 were willing to stand with me. Kwame Jackson, Tara Dowdell, Marshawn Evans, Surya Yalamanchili, and James Sun, and then Brother Kevin were the only folks who had the courage to stand up and denounce Donald's candidacy. Again, history will prove that that was the right thing to do, because there's never a wrong time to do the right thing.
Randall Pinkett, I appreciate it, Frat. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Frat. 06.
06. All right, folks, go to my iPad here. This is the statement from the Biden campaign regarding the use of the N-word. No one is surprised that Donald Trump, who entered public life by falsely accusing black men of murder and entered political life, spreading lies about the first black president, reportedly used the N-word to casually denigrate a successful black man. Anyone notice a pattern? Donald Trump is exactly who black voters know him to be, a textbook racist who disrespects and attacks the black community every chance he gets, and the most ignorant man to ever run for president. It's why black voters kicked him out of the White House in 2020, and it's why they'll make him a loser a second time this November.
Somebody's killing poor people, and it's going on.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the mic, take back the mic, take back the mic, take back the mic.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties had waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. We are a resurrection, and we are ready.
And we won't be silent
Now, Trump is a convicted felon after being found guilty by a jury of his peers for falsifying business records, covering those payments up, and committing a campaign finance violation. Donald Trump, cheater, felon, unfit to be president. Republican Accountability PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That right there, folks, was from the Republican voters against Trump. They have been very vocal when it comes to Donald Trump. Also, I was looking at this here, and you know it. The folks of the Lincoln Project, they don't waste any time. Watch this.
Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree.
You're a criminal, Donald. That's what the jury said. Not the deep state, not the Democrats, not the Biden administration. A jury, regular people who saw the evidence and felt sick. You're a criminal, and you did it to yourself.
Nobody's ever seen anything like this. It's a shame.
Your defense was weak because you're weak. They had no argument because there is no argument. You were too scared to testify because you knew Donald. You know. You're guilty. Guilty as sin. Guilty as charged.
That was music to your ears, Reese. Reese, you would look excited right there.
That was some good shit. Listen, I know that I'm not the gravitas person on the panel, so I will fly that flag today. I'm going to wear that hat and I'm going to wear that cape. I am the low down in the gutter ass person on the panel. And today is one of those days where I think I come in great handy, because at the end of the day, we don't need to take cues from Republicans. Republicans will exploit anything. They'll make some shit up to exploit. So the whole idea that we're handing something to Republicans, handing something to Trump, I don't buy that. Because they don't have to be handed anything. They will do whatever it takes. There's no law they're unwilling to go in order to maintain power, maintain their grip on power. And so what the Democrats need to do is take a cue from that ad and remind people that you are facing a president. Okay, Joe Biden, he tripped over a sandbag, whatever. You are facing the choice between a now 34 times convicted, and a win is a win. I don't give a damn if he was convicted of 34 traffic tickets. I'm calling his ass a felon. That's what he is. The same way if you were convicted of cashing a bad check, you a felon, or any other thing that they want to hang around your head as a scarlet letter for the rest of your life. I'm gonna hang that around his head. And so I want the Democrats. I was disgusted when Biden said he had no further comment. Are you kidding me? This person is almost kicking your ass in many battleground polls, and he just got convicted of 34 counts. They need to be matching the energy as much as the Republicans are going to try to leverage this and make him out to be some sort of martyr and some sort of victim. Then you need to be reminding people of any kind of sense, which I do think outnumber the Republican voters. It's just that people don't vote. That you are looking at a 34-time convicted, now 50-something more additional indictments that he's facing, twice impeached president, who, by the way, when he was president, 500,000 people died of COVID under his watch and all kind of shit that went wrong. That's the kind of thing that you need to be hammering home. This is not a normal election to treat Donald Trump as a normal opponent, as just another old guy who you may like a little bit more, is malpractice. So I hope that they don't be scared like they always are with this. I hope that people don't try to, shy away from this and think that it's going to speak for itself. You have to drive this point home. The same way on the other side, they're going to drive it home that he's innocent and he's a victim.
I know this is AI, but this is another video that was on the Lincoln Project's page.
COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the mic, take back the mic, take back the mic, take back the mic.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing state were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? Ready, ready, ready. We are a resurrection, and we are ready.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Folks, during the House Oversight Committee hearing, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley sounded the alarm on the far-right manifesto Project 2025. Folks, of course, it is a 1,000-page manifesto that outlines a radical agenda to increase the powers of the executive branch if Donald Trump wins. Diminish rights for protections for LGBTQ individuals, immigrants, women, people of color, and dismantling key government agencies. Project 2025's recommendations raise concerns about the potential erosion of civil liberties and the rule of law in the United States. Here's what she had to say.
The federal government has the largest and most diverse workforce in the country, and Schedule F, an executive order that would replace tens of thousands of civil servants with partisan sycophants, would destroy our government infrastructure, destroy it. It is critical that we understand that the far-right extremists who are advocating for Schedule F see it as a means to an end. It is their pathway to enact widespread, wholesale policy violence. One thing I know for sure about Trump and his sycophants is that they telegraph their harm. Mr. Shriver, are you familiar with Project 2025?
Congresswoman, I've read about that.
For many people, this is their first time hearing about it, and we must sound the alarm. Project 2025 is a far-right manifesto. It is a 1,000-page bucket list of extremist policies that would uproot every government agency and disrupt the lives of every person who calls this country home. I won't detail every aspect, but I'll share some highlights. The Department of Education would be eliminated, cutting students off from civil rights protections and ending essential Title I funding for K through 12 schools. The Department of Justice would go on a murdering spree. It would rush to use the death penalty and expand its use to even more people while circumventing due process protections. Project 25 not only calls for national book bans in schools, but also creates a list of banned words for the federal government that would be deleted from, quote, every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, and piece of legislation that exists. End quote. Here are just a few of the words on the list: diversity, gender, reproductive health, and of course, conservatives want to ban the word abortion. On that note, abortion care would be inaccessible and illegal no matter where you live. Take it from them. On page 6 of its playbook, Project 2025 states, quote, the Dobbs decision is just the beginning, end quote. People, even in my district, the Massachusetts 7th, a leader in repro justice, would be criminalized for pursuing essential health care. Now, we could have an entire hearing on how these policies would quite literally ruin and end lives. And I didn't even touch upon proposals for housing, climate change, worker protections, and more. If enacted, Project 2025 would destroy the federal government as we know it. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an Associated Press article titled, Conservative Groups Draw Up Plan to Dismantle the U.S. Government and to Replace It with Trump's Vision.
Without objection to order.
Now, some may be wondering why this is germane to today's hearing with the Office of Personnel Management. Mrs. Shriver, do you know who the director of Project 2025 is?
No, Congresswoman, I don't.
The director is Paul Dans, former chief of staff of OPM under the Trump administration. And I am concerned about the ethics of Mr. Dans leveraging non-public information or relationships forged during his government service to lead and advance this far-right extremist agenda. We need oversight and accountability of Project 2025.
I don't think folks really are paying attention, Joe, when we talk about how lethal and how sick and demented Project 2025 is, especially if Trump wins.
It's a serious problem. My mom worked for the federal government, Department of Veterans Affairs, for 40 years. And I can imagine how someone in that position, in the position she was in, or in a similar agency, could potentially, you've got property right in your job, could potentially be taken away from you because you don't swear an oath of allegiance, or someone feels like you're in glory, whatever else, or somebody feels like you're the Department of Education and you shouldn't exist anymore. People really need to pay attention. This is where the urgency comes from for me. Anyone in this country who's dependent on the government at all for financial help. Now, there's other things, but let's make it the most personal this way. Anybody that gets a government check needs to be extremely concerned about what's going on here and what is being planned, because they're basically going to eliminate all the safeguards, all the rules, and effectively stay in charge, even while being outnumbered. And so, I don't want to be less than sympathetic, and ultimately, I'm a faith person. Faith without works is dead, so we'll continue doing the work. But if somebody a year, 2, 3 years from now, who didn't vote or who voted the wrong way has any complaint about anything in that playbook, it's a 1,000-page book. It exists. They're telling you what they're going to do. It's like somebody that thought that they could tame a snake, and the snake bites them, and they said, but I treated you good. And the snake says, but you knew I was a snake at the very beginning. So we better make our mind up and understand this is not about personalities. Maybe Biden isn't as congenial or as exciting as Barack Obama or Robert Kennedy. Maybe he's long in the tooth. But there's a very, very profound and stark choice that we have to make here. And only with one will the Constitution continue to exist on some level as we know it. There'll still be fights, but you'll at least have people at the top that want the Constitution to still be honored, et cetera, because out goes a lot of the things that we count on. And so we better be careful and be aware. They're not hiding where they're going with this.
Yep.
Go read the book.
Yep.
It's a book.
It's real clear. And listen, Randy, all these people were sitting there, oh my God, I can't believe Roe v. Wade was overturned. They kept telling you that. What the hell were you not paying attention?
They are not hiding. They've what they want. They told us what they're going to do. They've outlined the plan. Like they said, a 1,000-page document. So if people don't know or try to act like they don't know, it's cognitive dissonance. They don't want to know. And, of course, I haven't read the entire document, but the pieces I have read are scarier than anything Steven Spielberg ever wrote. They really want to completely change the government where it looks going to look more like a dictatorship. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and they are who they are, and they absolutely don't give a damn about the environment, Mustafa.
No, they don't. They want to get rid of the EPA just like they do with the Department of Education. It's interesting. One, I really appreciate this show, Roland, and Black Star Network. And here's some of the reasons why. So when I first found out about Project 2025, I reached out to a whole bunch of folks will know in the media world and said, hey, you should pay attention to this. And I got crickets. And then, of course, this show was one of the first to start talking about Project 2025 and that people should actually pay attention to it. You should read for yourself. And then you should ask the question, how will this benefit my community? And the question or the answer will be that it is not going to benefit your community. It's going to continue to roll back many of the small wins that we have. Joe mentioned also about folks who check from the federal government, how it will impact them. It's much broader than that. It is that. But it is also about all of the things that happen in your life are tied to one of those agencies or departments inside of the federal government, whether it is housing or transportation or food or jobs or civil rights. All of these things will be radically changed, radically weakened. That will have impacts inside of your life. It is also about that the federal government is one of the largest employers of people of color. So they're going to move many of these people out and bring in their own folks. And you saw how many people of color actually worked underneath of the last administration that Trump had. So there are all of these layers that you have to unpack. But the basic thing to remember is that if somebody is not moving forward with a plan that is going to help your life be better, that is going to better protect your community, that is going to strengthen our country, then why would we support it or the individuals who are moving forward? And of course, if you unpack it, it is right-wing nationalists and racists who are the ones who put this plan together. So for Black folks, the question would be, do you think that any of these right-wing nationalists and racists have any indication that they ever want to do anything to help your community? And if the answer is no, why would you support them or this plan?
Simple as that.
Somebody's killing poor people, and it's going on.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the money, take back the money, take back the money, take back the money.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties had waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready. And we won't be silent anymore.
Y'all know some crazy people out here. So these Hispanic workers were out there just doing their job, but this white woman decided to show her ass. Watch this.
They're not documented. They 100% are. They 100% are. But it's not your information.
Sure it is. I'm a citizen of the country. I mean, I'm a citizen. Why? How is it not my business?
They're not even working on your property.
It doesn't matter. They're working in my neighborhood. They're working next to my property.
Is that? I don't understand. They all have documentation, and now you're demanding it.
Yes.
Are you demanding mine as well?
Well, you obviously are not Hispanic.
And why is that? Why are you not demanding my documentation?
Are you that dense? Are you?
Is this a racist thing? Are you? It's because they're Hispanic?
Of course. Hispanics are the only undocumented here. Mexicans and South Americans. Yes. And we're facing a huge crisis in this country.
Do I need to get police involved here?
Sure.
So that you'll let these guys alone?
I'm not bothering them.
You are harassing them, and you're actually on this person's property as well.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I'm going to have these guys keep working.
Well, okay, and I'm going to call the police.
Okay. I will as well. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know, but I'm going to have these guys keep working. We're contracted by them. They're actually getting ready to come out and let you know the same exact things. So I'm going to have them keep on rocking and rolling.
You keep rocking and rolling.
Okay,
you
awesome.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great.
How arrogant and racist can you be to roll up on some folk who ain't even doing work for you and demand to see their papers? This literally, Joe, is what we saw during racist apartheid when black people had to carry a passbook with their papers. And anybody white could just accost them and demand to see their papers.
And hey, this is where we're going. It was not only that the fact that she did it, but the thought that she could. No ramifications. And just as honest as pie. Are you doing this because they're Hispanic? Yes, absolutely. You know, they're the only people that are here legally. You know, Mexicans and South Americans, that's it. That's all there is. That's the only problem. Not on her property, doesn't have anything to do with her at all, but she needs to see their papers. But this is entitlement. This is where we're going. And if we're not aware of it, it's going to sink down on us, out of nowhere. And then everybody's going to wonder why we're dealing with what we're dealing with. It's because they feel like they can.
These racists, Randy, are emboldened. And they absolutely believe, and you say, yeah, you damn right, I can just walk up on you and demand to see papers.
This is their country, and anybody else has to prove their rights to be there. This is how they feel. I mean, her attitude was obvious. Like, she didn't try to hide it. She believes that this country is hers and that anybody else is hyphenated. And she has the absolute right to walk up and ask you to prove why you're there. And this happens every day, thousands of times a day. Everybody has a story. And that's how the term Karen came up. And what is always so interesting to me, though, is how safe she feels. Also, when he said, I'll call the police, because she knows that the police is typically going to work on her behalf and take her side. There's no fear. Whereas when you tell Black people, I'm going to call the police, we react very differently because we understand that it usually does not go in our favor, regardless of how right that we are. I congratulate the the boss who definitely tried to protect his employees. That made me proud. I like to see allyship in action. I mean, I wish she'd even done more, but it was better than I would see sometimes. But she's disgusting, but she's also typical.
And what we're seeing, Mustafa, Republicans are passing bills that will allow law enforcement to do the same thing, or just these lone wolves out there. I mean, we are going to see more of this in this country. Bank on it.
It's about power and privilege. I mean, Joe touched on some of that. And we've got these, you know, the question becomes, where do people get this from? Well, some of it is just embedded into them. Maybe it's in their DNA, but it's definitely in the history of how their power can play out. But now we've got, you know, these various lawmakers who continue to introduce these pieces of legislation where folks can just pull people over, they can stop them and say, show me your papers. But if you understand the history behind those types of actions, as you mentioned, it's not only South Africa, the Nazis did it to Jewish folks and part of the black codes. You can go through the history of this country and a number of other countries where people have utilized these types of things to oppress folks and to also put people in their place. Last point I'll make is that she really doesn't understand immigration in this country, because if she looked at the northern border as well as the southern border, you'd find that there are people coming from Europe illegally. There are people coming from other countries illegally. So we need to make sure that, one, we understand the fullness of what's happening, and then two, making sure that we have a fair and just immigration policy so no one has to worry about the fear of someone like this or others trying to get over on them.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So for folks out there, understand this is the nonsense you see happening every single day.
Somebody's killing poor people, and it's going on.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty,
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know it doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.